You are now tuned in to the ChopShop podcast with ChopMaster J.
Oh yeah, yeah. ChopMaster J, the Chop Shop. Chop Shop, Chop Shop, Chop Shop. ChopMaster J. Oh yeah, Judy Klein, Judy Klein. So too, son of the underground. Here we go,
You all tuned in to the ChopShop podcast with ChopMaster J.
Oh yeah. Welcome to another episode of the Chop Shop with yours truly, ChopMaster J. Judy Klein, Judy Klein.
Hey.
And so too.
Yo.
And we're here to discuss my hometown of the San Francisco Bay Area, Oakland, California, and all of the various different moves and the transitions and all of the different de-evolution of Oakland and the re-socializing architecture that's going on there when you eliminate sports teams and when when the mayor and the city itself and the city government fails the people and it's almost like an episode out of The Wire, Judy Klein. It's like watching it from growing up there, born and raised there, living in Berkeley, with spending, if I lived in Berkeley, I'll say I spent 40% of my time in Oakland because that's where all my family lived. And it's weekend night sleepovers in Oakland, my cousin's house, all of my relatives lived in Oakland. So my life was in Oakland, but I went to school in Berkeley and I lived in Berkeley, but my life was in Oakland growing up for the most part. And
which is down the street. Well, I walked from Berkeley to Oakland.
Yeah, exactly. It's a mile. It's a mile to the border from Oakland. I mean, not even that. You got Berkeley, then Emeryville, Oakland. And in some parts you don't have Emeryville, you just got Oakland. But the bottom line is it's all right there. Very small and very unique place. And, and I grew up in a unique time there myself when it was, largely, I won't say largely, but I believe at one point in somewhere in the 60s and early 70s, it was upwards 37% African-American people, which is a lot of folk. And you could feel the difference and you could feel it and you knew it, and all kind of wonderful organizations came out of there, as we all know, the Black Panther Party and the Women's Liberation Movement thing in North Oakland and the free speech movement and out of Berkeley. But then also a lot of street stuff occurred there too. I believe, Judy Klein, because of the activism, because of the people who were getting educated from the university there and the different situations there, that I guess at one point it appears as if the government felt the need to suppress that area and to take control of it so no other new revolutionaries popped out of there. And so it became a very, very heavily drug infested area. You have basically the dock right there in Jack London Square, which you have that particular loading dock and pier there. Is one of the largest in the country. I think the bigger one's down here in Long Beach, and I think one in Seattle. But literally being down there in Jack London Square, and just seeing the different things and the things that you don't see growing up there, you could just feel that stuff was going on. You could feel that stuff was moving. You could feel that maybe when you're down there in Jack London Square on 2nd Avenue and the nightclubs let out like at 1:32 in the morning, so you're down there. They used to have Uppies on the Square, Judy Klein, which is owned by Gene Upshaw. They had Ivy's, that was a nightclub with these 3 or 4 brothers that owned it. They were really popular, and Ivy's. You had Wine and Roses. You had so many things that were down there popping. And later on, like in the 90s and stuff, and even the 2000s, eventually, I believe that you had the chicken and waffles places that have opened up down there, and they stayed open pretty late. But the bottom line was, what also went on down there were all of the produce places and stuff. So at like 1:32 in the morning, the streets would be crowded like the daytime there, with people moving stuff around, produce, all the different things that had just been shipped in and stuff like that. And so you could tell something was happening down there. They were moving other things than lettuce and tomatoes and stuff down there 2, 3, 4 in the morning. But because of the politics of the Bay Area, it also, like I said, breeded another kind of breed of folk, and that was the street hustlers who were out there hustling, and making moves with stuff. And, and like I said, it became really drug infested and stuff out there. And, I think crack was invented in Oakland. It's like, that's not a badge of honor. But at the end of the day, so many other things are created in the Bay, right? Pharmaceutical drugs, all kinds of stuff there, right? So many things. So why not, something like that? But at the end of the day, it's one of the most beautiful places in proximity to the water, in proximity to the parks that are there, and the beautiful rolling hills and stuff, in proximity to the bridges, just everything. I mean, you live in Oakland, you can literally, be in Santa Cruz, water. You could be surfing in Santa Cruz in the morning and the afternoon, and you can be skiing at night 3.5 hours up in Tahoe Arena. So the location of this place is incredible. And it looks and it appears as if it's just been corrupted, and I don't know who's doing what they're doing to the town, but they've stripped the people of everything but their souls and their memories of the town. And it's really hard. I mean, I know every place is going through their gentrification things here and there, but this one, it must be a real master plan what they got going for that, because it's just weird. Judy, I do understand that you played a part not long ago in an event at the Henry J. Kaiser venue.
Yes, on Saturday, kind of a soft opening event because, the building had been technically closed for over a decade or so, and it's still finishing up the renovations, but we wanted to do something to kind of jumpstart the
Mm-hmm.
excitement in the community, to bring community back to the city,
Okay.
to, donate some proceeds to the Alameda County Food Bank, because that's important, because homelessness is off the chain in that area, which
Yeah.
is absurd and ridiculous for an area, the whole Bay Area. As much wealth is there is disproportionately more poverty.
Right.
Wow.
So that was, our goal was to, get people out, get the community engaged, and try to feed some people during this upcoming holiday season. Back to something that you had said earlier, in the late 80s, early 90s, 47% of Oakland's population was Black.
Ooh.
Yeah. And that was when, all y'all came flooding out the doors. MC Hammer, some group called Digital Underground,
Mhm.
Those
Tupac,
cats. Yeah.
Too Short,
Right.
you know, Tony, Vogue, all that.
Right.
There was such an explosion, and that's what happens when you have an area that is so culturally enriched. You start to see the fruits of it through the arts and the culture.
Right. Right. Hey, don't forget about groups like Primus, Third Eye Blind.
Yeah,
You know.
yep. We were talking about them, and we weren't talking about Billy
well,
Joel
well,
Armstrong, Green Day, but they're
no, well, a lot of those cats were in Oakland and stuff too. I mean, even though at
yeah,
the
I
end of
know,
the
and we could go off on a tangent on jazz musicians, which will take us all the way down the street across the river, but just focusing in on the area where you grew up in and
right,
the cultural contribution and kind of what happened there and what was popping.
right. No, hey, absolutely, and first of all, back to that Henry J. Kaiser, I remember, in the very early '80s or so, like in high school, I remember taking my now wife, who was raised Catholic and stuff, and so I remember taking her to go see Minister Farrakhan speak. We went there twice to go see him speak. As a child, also we used to go to closed circuit Muhammad Ali fights, or later I gather Sugar Ray Leonard fights at the Henry J. Kaiser. That was a closed circuit joint. And then somewhere in the late '90s, '98 or so, I had the opportunity to Big Brother Soul had the opportunity to open up for Rick James there.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, you remember that shit? So I took So Too, and his sister and my family came to see. It was me. We were opening up, and it was Rick James, and it was the weirdest thing, Judy, because you've done these big events, you've done these events, and so we're backstage, and it was really gloomy. It was really weird backstage, because the promoters did not want anyone backstage that could possibly be someone to get Rick some dope. So he shut down backstage, and it was like being on lockdown. Like, the backstage was the VIP section was on punishment. Shit, like,
Yeah.
but it was cool because he came out and he gave a great show, and I was really happy.
He got out.
Right, he had just been released from prison, with a new album. But that venue and that place has a lot of memories, holds a lot of memories for me. And like I said, growing up in Oakland, the Roxy Theater, where we go see the triple features, and you go see Coffee, Enter the Dragon, and Monkey Hustle, or something,
Okay.
or JD's Revenge, Five Fingers of Death, and Mahogany, or something like. So
Any Jim Brown movie.
and all the Jim Brown movies, and we should have been paying attention to some of them. Something like Three the Hard Way, where they were going to poison the man. The man was going to poison the water source for people of color in Detroit, L.A. and Chicago, or something like that. And lo and behold, right, we did end up seeing that later, right, in certain parts of the country out there in Michigan.
Still happening in a lot of places.
And in Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
So
Texas, just outside of Bakersfield, it's all over the place.
Yeah, so as much as they want to call that black exploitation film, some of that shit was real. Anyway, the idea.
The only problem is we didn't have Pam Grier to save us.
Right, exactly. Pam Grier and her lovely breastises. Anyway, the idea of
Richard Roundtree.
Richard Roundtree, and really Jim Brown, Fred Williamson, and his cigar, and I love those. Yeah, I love those movies. I love those dudes. I loved what that was. And once again, that's a whole nother conversation. But that definitely was these films and the black audience helping to save Hollywood at that time. Anyway. Getting back to the Get Back Oakland, the Mac was made up out of Oakland, right?
Sure. There's so much Mac walking around today.
Yeah.
Oh,
So they walking because they damn sure can't
wide
afford to
brim
drive.
hats with the feathers, right? Platforms, all that.
Well, the one thing that growing up in Oakland and growing up in the Bay, that as an artist, that was always kind of trippy for me was some of the people there, some of the cultural gatekeepers and some of those folks there would always be relatively slow to acknowledge the local artist, um, and would always seem to acknowledge artists from other areas and other places, like and it would be a frustrating place to be an artist because in the San Francisco Bay Area in Oakland, Judy Klein, there was no real true black radio station anymore. The radio formats had changed in the 80s and 90s, and you had churban radio, so you didn't have an urban radio, you didn't have this, so you could be Tony and have a hit video on Video Soul and have all that stuff happening and not getting any real airplay on the radio in the Bay Area. Most of the radio airplay would occur down south and in other territories, right? They try to build it up. And so when it gets to California, because California is a major market, but for the most part, it was difficult being a artist from the Bay, and especially an R&B artist, let alone a hip hop artist. And
Yeah,
most of our greatest hip hop artists were really underground dudes. There were a couple that made it up and big. MC Hammer, first and foremost, in terms of national, internationally. As Short, he eventually broke through nationally, but after being underground for years. You know what I'm saying? And still maintained a certain underground thing and cult thing to this day. But, I don't believe that Short really went, big in radio to like some Little John or something. I could be wrong. But the idea of Short and E-40 and these brothers and the other Mac Dre's and Sebos, these guys are out of Oakland and Vallejo. And the plethora of artists that have come out of the town weren't really promoted in the town, except like underground and maybe college and alternative radio stations played them, but not the mainstream radio stations. I love this cat now, LaRussell, that So2 turned me on to. I dig him. He's out of Vallejo, and he's kind of fly with what he's doing.
He just encompasses that independent vibe, that hustle, that same shit that niggas is used to seeing. Like, we ain't seen in a different way now, because
right,
you ain't selling tapes out your trunk no more, but you come to my house and watch me perform type
in the backyard or something, right?
Yeah,
he's got some real homespun way of promoting himself, and it works. And
it creates community around his music.
Right, and and I love the way he gets down. I love the one cat that I'm seeing that initially I was going, who is this brother? He was just so everywhere, and he's the cat Mr. Fab. And Mr. Fab, for me, I'm just talking about for me checking him out. I understand his what he is and the staple that he is in Oakland. He's basically the ambassador of hip hop in Oakland. When Oakland, because that's another thing about the Bay, the cats out of the Bay a lot of times are these artist type dudes who ain't really look at me type people, and there's not really an industry out of the Bay that does that. So, Mr. Fab took it upon himself to be from what I can tell from me observing, was he's made himself the ambassador some kind of way. I know he's family with everybody in the town, but I know that through watching him promote himself, and then the good fortune of the Warriors winning and having that platform and that high profile events happening around the town at that time. And even back in that time too, I think Marshawn Lynch came back to Oakland and was playing it was a real Oakland thing, was really happening. It was kind of having a resurgence of popularity due to being incredible, because even when the Warriors were winning the way they were winning, nobody could tell how they were doing it, because They weren't doing it conventionally. They were doing it being very innovative. The way that they played basketball, with the biggest guy on the floor being 6'7" and 6'6" or some Draymond Green. And so once again, the Bay Area was being innovative in even the sports and doing stuff. And Mr. Fab was right down there ringside, right down front. And and he's represented it well. I dig him. I understand him. I love his sense of self promotion, his sense of promoting everybody to promote himself, which is beautiful. And I'm not saying it's disingenuous at all. I believe that he's completely genuine, and I share that exact same feeling. I done some interviews after Shock G had passed away in 2021, and some people weren't happy with some of the narrative that I was creating by me trying to have the Bay understand that we created. I'm the one from the Bay Area, first and foremost, from Oakland, Berkeley, born and raised, and we created myself and the community I came up with created Digital Underground. Shock G was the star. Humpty Hump was the star. But the real star and the unsung star was the area in which we came out of and how we did it, and the way that the community supported this artsy shit that was left field. And I don't believe that it could have happened anywhere else, quite honestly. And and it breeds all kind of other people and stuff. So too, and I, the other night, Judy, Klein, matter of fact, just 2 nights ago, we're sitting and watching. I'm digging the mechanics. I love that crew up out of the town, up out of the Bay, production team of folks, and I'm digging them. I'm slow to the party with them, but I'm digging them, and I'm digging the way, for the first time, I'm seeing the artists of Oakland over the last, man, it ain't brand new, but but they've been doing it now for, I guess, let's just say the last 10 years now, of holding the Bay up high, holding the Bay up and celebrating it for all of the great things that it's brought to the table through the years, and acknowledging it. And to have these cats doing that, it's refreshing, because another part of it is, Judy, which you've also experienced from what you've told me, is the way a lot of times we don't support each other from the Bay. The way we don't. It used to seem like cats from New York, they might hate each other's guts, but they know how to get together, or they'll endure. Well,
you have to in New York because it's so expensive. Everybody need to get paid. But there is some very petty, backstabby, no unity, not getting along, everybody hating on each other, dismissiveness, like a really competitive nature that I haven't seen anywhere else. You go to Philly, everybody's kumbaya. DC, kumbaya. Chicago people collaborate. Even throughout the South, they're collaborating on whatever together. But the Bay is like, people, it's weird. It's just a very weird vibe.
Well, it's funny because excuse me, like you say, the South,
even LA can get together. Gang members of the opposing gangs can get together. Together in the Bay.
Yeah, and them same gangs, they had a real issue. I don't know about the other kind of people, but I know the black gang members of the Crips and Bloods tried that up in the Bay, and when they tried it, it did not work. There's so many
in the Bay.
Right, because exactly. There's everybody's independent. There's too many. You can't. Right, if you hurt some people over here, you don't understand. You didn't hurt somebody's crew or something. You hurt one cat probably. One or two.
A fighting thing. It's just about the music, right? Well, the team sport, getting together, collaborating. Just working together, supporting each other. Mentioning, hey, I'm going to be on this show. Why don't you bring up so-and-so to be on the show with me? It's that type of brotherhood of musicianship that just is not there. At least I haven't seen it.
And if it does exist, it's kind of existed quietly. And if anything, we might have seen the results. Like one of the crews that, that really hit a lick and been together forever had been E-40 and the Click, right? So you got Sugar T, you got Be Legit, you got D Shot, you got E-40, and and they were one of the ones that did things together and then did solo albums, and they've been doing that for years, and it took a long time even for them to, from what I know, I don't, I know from being in the mix and being at places like the one cat with the distributorship. I don't know if you remember or knew him, Judy, Jason Blaine, who had music people, like a one stop, or was it no one stop? But one stop, a record place, one stop for when small record stores run out, right? They could go there and get records and stuff, and he got into distributorship, but he also used to be a dude who threw parties and barbecues over there on MacArthur and San Pablo at his place, and that would bring all the hip hoppers and all the independents together, and so that's how I will have met these cats years ago, and the idea of the unity that we speak of, because I can remember Hammer. And I was a fan of Hammers from day one because you know what? I could appreciate a show. I come from
wonderful.
I could appreciate a show and theater, and I appreciated him when it was not cool to think he was cool, even amongst the cats in the Bay. It was like he had as many haters in the Bay initially because you had so many people misinterpreting the culture at that time. You had cats out of New York who are the let's just say the creators of it, for the most part, and they were definitely utilizing it to make records and do that, but they had aspirations beyond that: film, television, commercials, and everything else. Those cats came from the hood, but those cats also came from Madison Avenue and Wall Street. So at the end of the day, they were enterprising, and I don't care where you may have been in New York in the different boroughs, the idea there was kind of one universal or one kind of a thing. Everybody was trying to get to Manhattan, to Wall Street and Madison Avenue, and get to some, or 40 Rockefeller Plaza to get some work and to get some real stuff happening. Different than the Bay, it wasn't really a place in the Bay. It's not like everybody's trying to get to San Francisco to make something happen. It was like all happening in the East, in Oakland, and or Vallejo, and or whatever other little nooks and crannies of the town, but
Richmond,
Richmond, and things of that nature. And so, but all that stuff is so small and tight, it's all together. But the real deal is that it was very difficult. Like you said, we seem to have had more of a history of not uniting. And even when you talk about the cats down south, who primarily were, I won't say emulating, but influenced by their southern cousins that had moved north to the Bay Area. I mean, half the cats down south sound like Short or E-40, and then with the conversationalist kind of fast talking rap thing and all that, I've seen a group like Outkast have an incredible career by some stuff that I feel was Bay Area influenced and stuff, and that's fine. I mean, no one's capping on them. I mean, we loved them too when they were doing their thing, and some of the other folks. But I know from whence it came, and and like I said back in the day, a lot of people were misinterpreting the culture and feeling as that you had to be as authentic or be as close to what New York was offering to be considered that. And the people from New York, when I met real cats in New York, they loved how the music and the art was being like elevated and evolving in other parts, and they did not feel like you need to have on a Kango and a sweatsuit to rap. It's like or trying to fit into those templates. And I know as Digital Underground, we definitely came out the box with some left field shit, and I'd have on a whole Guatemalan outfit out there, rocking some shit, squirting champagne on people and throwing popcorn. But the idea is,
Was that what that was you had on? Because I was always wondering. I was like,
oh yeah, we had on all kinds of shit, psychedelic shit. I was wearing tie-dye bottom line is we've been, doing things for a long time and really kind of out front. And, we have an opportunity to be different and eclectic and stuff because the area breeds that. But, more than anything else, some of the greatest talent that had come out of the Bay that had gone large, be it Tupac, who moved from New York to Maryland to the Bay, to Marin County, Marin City, and or people that, one of the other kids that came up that I really admired and liked was Safir. Now, Safir, who just passed away today, and I just want to say to his son and his family, sister, and others we should all remain inspired by the energy shared with your brother and your father. And, the idea of Safir was someone, and it was odd, Judy, because So Too and I were watching YouTube and saw Mr. Fab with the Mechanics making a tribute record to Oakland and the Bay. And it was, for me, it was uplifting, and it made me, I don't know how old the video was. I don't think it was new. But what was so ironic, Judy, is that in the video, Safir is in it, and he pays, homage to Safir. He speaks on him, gives him a tribute, and this, that, and the other. And we were talking about him. And lo and behold, like I said, I woke up this morning and went to Facebook, and the first thing I saw was "Rest in Peace, Safir." Blew my mind. This is blowing my mind. I mean, people are leaving here every day. And when I think of Safir, I think of the first time, if you guys ever see the Humpty Dance video, the guy with the blonde high top fade, kind of like Kid and Play, with a green suit on, as two cats with green suits. It's Safir and his buddy that were a rap group back then. And Safir looked like he had like I said, the blonde high top thing, the Kid and Play cut, but it was blonde. He's in the video. You can see him in the audience right there in the front. But, it went from that to later him getting himself involved in DU, as I kind of started moving in different ways with Force One Network and stuff. I know that Safir had become engulfed and engaged with the underground, and there was a period where in the underground, there had been a bunch of new young cats that had been coming, but Pac was like the star at that time because, Juice had come out and his own album had come out, and he was the big dog at the time. But the underground was always about trying to recruit some new folks and keep some new young blood coming in. And Safir was one who was up in there getting down. So at one point, I gather that Pac, I believe, had introduced Safir to the Hughes brothers, in which the Hughes brothers cast Safir in the movie Menace to Society, and Safir played the character Kane's cousin, Harold. And Harold was the dude who was not going to be punked for his car when they tried to jack him, and went out like a soldier trying to keep his car and trying to defend his property. And but there was a valuable lesson learned of Harold's fate. The bottom line was,
give it up.
Yeah. But Safir, super cool dude, super charismatic, good looking guy. He had a twin sister. He had the twin sister. And the idea of the competition in the underground at that time amongst the young upstarts, the cats that were coming up, Pac and Safir, I believe, started. It felt like competition for Pac because Safir was dope. Safir is, I won't say it was as charismatic as Pac, but he definitely was another cat that could very much, there's enough space for all of them. And he could have very easily been, the next dude to blow up with stuff as an actor and as a performer and as a rapper. And during this period when competing, Pocket, I guess, went to Shock and he wanted Safir out of the camp, period. Because I think also what also happened is Safir was cast in Minister Society, and we all know the story. Pac was too, and then for whatever reason they fell out, and Pac was fired from the film, but Safir was still in it, and things of that nature. So when all this stuff arose, Safir had left the underground for a moment, or had just kind of left the camp, really, and came down here to L.A. where I was recording two additional songs for our Force One Network album with Dave Hollister. And we were down here recording, and Safir popped up, and we took him in and basically asked him to be a part and write and do some material with us for this record, which, he did. And he was on a song, Love Vapors, we did, and a song called Back in the Days, which he actually wrote a lot of the lyrics for me in his own rhyme. And it was incredible, as well as we did a song for a movie called Airborne that Safir rapped on about, some X game type, extreme sport type things. And he was fly with that. And I'm going to make sure that people get an opportunity to hear it, most certainly, because he was incredible. And the one thing about him, Judy, Klein, that stood apart was, I don't know how much Safir you've ever maybe heard, but his tone and his delivery, his cadence was different than everybody else. His tone was deep and rich, and it sounded, I told him, I said, man, you're like Coltrane. You're the Coltrane of hip hop. And, because he flipped it and he could swing in different time codes. And because I'm a drummer, I do understand 4/4, 2/4, 5/4, 7/4. I'm saying 11/4. He 7/8. He could swing it. He was like, really dope in terms of the vocal stylings. And so he was really dope with that, kind of a step above. And he recorded with me. We were at Quest and Warner Brothers, and they were so impressed with him that my man Sleuth was able to secure him a deal over at Quest, the Quincy Jones label with Warner Brothers. And so Safir's album came out over there. And Safir repped West Oakland, the Hobo Junction out of West Oakland, which was dope. He had his little brother from the Who Riders, and I love the Who Riders. That was one of those Bay Area groups that was just talk about bank and all that. That shit was hot, you know what I'm saying? And but I can remember meeting Safir lots of times over at Lois the Pie Queen, and always making sure that he was cool if he had some scratch, or even if the little brother had some scratch, and made sure that they ate and was cool. I was always looking out for everyone. And so, and I, not bragging, I'm just, the truth is the truth. And I know that, Safir was really cool. And I think something that you could appreciate about him, Judy, was he also wasn't really a guy that was down to go for the okie doke of this industry. He'd rather just be back in the town doing his thing. If he got acting gigs time to time, he'd do them, but he wasn't really tripping this. You know what I'm saying? He was popular enough in his own community in different ways. And it's sad, I don't know exactly what he passed away from. That's not important to me that way. But I do know, because he's 54 years old.
It's pretty young.
Yeah, but I do know from talking with him a few years back, where I asked him what happened with him, because he'd been in a wheelchair. And he allegedly or supposedly at one point, either himself, he claimed, I think he said he was kind of clowning around and ran and jumped on a train that was moving, trying to catch this train, and fell and really tore himself up, and his back and his spine, and he wasn't ever the same. And it's really sad. But more importantly, the idea of Oakland and the Bay Area and the wonderful, talented people that have come from there. Also, looking at the combined thing of having artists and people like Mr. Fab and them point out to you all of the stuff that's gone wrong with Oakland and showing you the results, was horrifying. I mean, I know those streets and I'm going, God damn. And like I said, him along with the Mechanics have made some songs and videos that I just kind of discovered as it pertains to them showing Oakland, showing the Bay, and showing the dire straits that a lot of it's, and it's just horrible. So like, I don't really know. I mean, they have a song "Save Oakland," and I understand because I do read what goes on there and stuff, and how people tell me to be careful when you're there now, and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, man, shit, I grew up in crack Oakland '80s. It couldn't be any worse than that. It's like, yeah, it really kind of is.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, because now you don't know what the reason. The people are just doing stuff for reasons. Like before, you could just be caught up in being in the wrong place, the wrong time, in the wrong territory with something going on. But it ain't even really that. It's just random acts of violence and crime.
Desperate.
Yeah, desperation. A good friend, Tom Wells, was trying to explain to me the social architecture of what's going on there. And like we said, taking the Raiders out of there and the Oakland A's, the Warriors moved across the bridge, which when you move across the bridge, that might as well be across the world for most folks in the East Bay. They got a lot of folks who don't want to go over a bridge with that water. And a lot of folks that don't want to go in the tunnel in the BART underwater. And so
that's the funnest part.
But it's literally, it keeps a lot of people. I'm telling you, I grew up with folks in the East Bay. They had some folks who never been to San Francisco, born and raised in the East Bay, had not gone, aren't looking to go. Period. I think the only one common thing that would bring folks from the East Bay to San Francisco, Judy, was Chinatown and to have Chinese food. That's how weird. That's how weird and kind of backwards. That's kind of weird and kind of, people are comfortable in their own environments and they don't really choose to search out and these different things. In San Francisco, especially back in the day, was vastly different than the East Bay about certain stuff. I mean, so, I feel for it. I want to embrace my town. It's hard to see what's going to come out of this. It'll never not be a beautiful, beautiful place. Though the tent cities and the thought or the threat of the crime that could come your way being there is hard to want to tolerate or swallow. Crime anywhere, but especially in your hometown where you might have used to could walk down this street or park your car on this street and don't have to worry about being vandalized, robbed, or whatever. And I don't even know. Like I said, Judy, the only thing I'd ever seen was like that old series, The Wire, when they showed you inner city politics and the way that things can go. And to see how Oakland has, has done what it's done is really crazy. So I like the idea of the people, like I said, the new younger folk who are trying to hold Oakland up high and trying to keep it with some hope and trying to, make sure that they make a way and make the best of a bad situation and look for that silver lining. I just know that it's important too to make sure that the history that does come out of the town is correct and stuff. You got a lot of gatekeepers there that don't want to acknowledge the real deal. And like I said, almost would prefer to give credit to other folks who come from other parts of the country who are not from the soil. And, and I think it's important for the people from those areas to really know the truth so that can help with the esteem and make them feel better about who they are, where they come from. And no matter where they end up, can at least know that they do come from environments that have produced incredible riches. And though we may not have all been able to reap the benefits of those riches, to know where you come from is important. And I just want to give a shout out to Oakland and to the people there that are maintaining and attempting to make change and to try to hold on to something that is, community and all that good stuff. So, I don't know, but Judy Klein, I want to thank you for allowing me to share with you my hometown and some of the things that we'd gone through and stuff. And, everybody there, hold on, the idea of it all is like Judy Klein says, the fight has just begun. Things like the election might be over, but the fight has just begun. And we are all we have, says like Judy Klein. We're all we got. we're all we got. We're going to need to unite.
Didn't your dad have a community kind of vibe in Oakland at one point?
Oh, absolutely, Mr. Wonderful with his billiard center and basically being the person that was the clothier to
around the Mac time.
Right, the clothier. Yeah.
Frank, the reason why everybody's dressed like the Mac.
Right, and he's the reason why some of the shit went crazy there too. But the idea of
talk about that,
right? That's another episode. That's the Mr. Wonderful episode. But the idea is that people like Frank Ward and folks was my dad's best friend, and the Ward brothers, and the things that my father did do was a part of that 1960s, 70s. I don't even say late 50s, but the 60s, 70s era that made Oakland made its bones on is he's one of the dudes. And I grew up as his son. So, you've
seen it firsthand.
Right. I kind of seen from an inside window of how a lot of things work. That's why I'm so disappointed in the decimation of my town. And to hear it spoken about the way it is horrible. But, like we said, we're going to keep it positive. We're going to keep the light on and make sure that we uplift and play a part in the new generation's attitude with holding things up, being positive, and trying to make the most and the best of everything. So shout out, Barry Love, town business, all that good stuff. Let's stick together and make some things happen. We'll be doing our part by different things. Digital Underground, Next Generation will come back and we will claim and be able to claim certain things to make you feel good again and to promote the town from the origins of whence it became. So, Judy Klein, any closing words for the people?
I mean, I like the Bay. It ain't LA, but I like the Bay.
That we can concur. It certainly
right.
is.
I have a lot of good people who I love a lot from the Bay.
That's right.
My NorCal family. Like New York West, but it's okay.
No, let me tell you something. And being a NorCal brother, I got my Southern Cal family, and I love them too.
It's California love, right?
California love.
We like that a lot.
We do, and I think that we should get out of here maybe with a tune. So too, you know how you rock it. So something maybe featuring Safir, and once again, shout out Oakland love. Something with Safir. Love you, bro. Love the town. ChopShop. This is another episode with your man, ChopMaster J. Judy Klein, and that cat sold to.
Ah, yes, coming at you from the network, the history of funk. Brought to you once again by yours truly, the Uhuru Maggots. Stomping in the mix since 1986, we brought you the original DU, ahead of its time in 89, and now the ChopMaster is back at ya with the barnacle butt bass bottom beat dripological sound wave called Back in the Days.
I watched the clown like we was doing earlier.
Back in the day.
Back in the day, play was understandable for the vandals to stay calm and I dropped bombs. To be playing was insane, so the yin yang came off in the song. Remembering the tadpoles, catching them in the seaweed, swinging my BMX bike to the lights in Edie. Safir had years and fears of getting older. Took a lot of weight to make him break my shoulders. And the skins made my shins buckle. Thinking back on this track kinda makes me chuckle. Knocked it up with the jump, they didn't pump no fear. 15 and 16 was a good year. Flint used to pass over my neighborhood, things got wild when I piled up my slingshot. I'll admit the bitch was berserk. Force one network goes to work. From back in the day.